Hi everyone. As Rishabh mentioned, my name is Aparna Bhatia, and today we're going to discuss how to place joins efficiently using MWF. Here's a mini little agenda of what we're going to accomplish in this session. We're going to learn how to place joins. One, we'll be doing it manually. Second, I'll show you how to use the auto join functionality. We are also going to create a new join type and then add a ladder join to that join type over top. And then I'll also show you how to disallow joins in case you ever need to do that for any conditions. All right, so let's get this party started. So first things first, I'm just going to go to my ground floor plan. I'm going to be doing this demo for wood, but you can definitely use the same features and tools for steel as well. I do have Pro Suite, so you will notice I have wood and LGS options available to me. Okay, so right now I have a few wood walls placed. You'll see I kind of have an entire unit drawn in. I didn't bother drawing in any doors or anything. I just wanted to show you how the joints work. And over here, you'll also notice I have a few small short walls here. And the reason I have these is so that I can test my custom joins once I create them. We always need to test them in different conditions that they may be used in to ensure like the exterior interior conditions are set properly, or the east-west or interior-exterior for the other condition is set up properly. So let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, let's show you how to place a join manually. So I'm gonna just quickly copy these and place them out here a little bit. So if I was to frame these two walls with, I'll just use the default wood template here, set as active, close. You'll notice that the end studs are not placing where we would typically like them to go. So if I hit OK here, you see the end studs are kind of being a little offset from here and here. And that's because it's trying to actually go, if I click on the wall for this, you'll see it's going to the node where that wall ends. So if I was to click this condition, you can see that the node ends here, which is not really flush to the structural layer here, or structural edge here. It's just a little inside. And that's just because it's using the center line of the wall as a guide. Okay, so if I did core center line, it would go up there. And same thing with this. If I did core center line, you notice that it goes in the middle there, right? But either way, it's not actually being pulled in, and that's because it is attaching to the center of the wall to create the nodes. So when I select the two walls together, the joins node is right there. Okay, so it's basically placing the members based on that. So if I do add an MWF join, and I'll show you how to add that one manually. So to add joins, first things first, you always have to click the walls, or at least have your walls in your selection. So if I was to select this member, and then try to place a join, it's going to be like, well, you haven't really selected walls. You haven't even selected one wall here. So it's not going to place a join. But if I select all of this, so you can see that I still have members selected here, but I have at least two walls selected in this condition. I can go ahead and place join, and it will allow me to place a join. Okay, so here you'll notice I have wood and steel. We're just going to focus on wood for this session. And I'm just going to go ahead and place something like simple A, or I can place like simple B. We give you these ones by default. None of these are custom, but yeah, you can basically use whichever one you prefer. And we also have some notes here, like if you want to do the overlapping top plates with the VTP, or very top plate basically. This join should only be used when you have double top plates, okay? If you don't use it with double top plates, then it will cause a lot of inaccuracies with end stud lengths, and also like the wood panel may not be drawn properly, okay? So I'm going to just stick with one of them. So let's just do different size backer here and hit OK. And the reason I chose this one is just so I can show you if the wall type changes, what happens as well. Okay, so here you can see that it placed a join, and that little join marker that it places, it tells you which wall is your main wall. So in this case, since the arrow is pointing in this direction and it's parallel to this wall, that means this is being considered the main wall, and this wall will take precedence. So as you can see, it goes all the way to the end, and that one's being cut short. Okay, if you want it the other way around, you can select the marker, click on joins, and then you can always set main wall, and you can choose the other wall to be the main wall. If needed, it will regenerate your panels automatically using this method as well. Okay. All right. So once it does that, we can see that it automatically made this the main wall, made it go all the way out, and that one got shrunk or cut short basically. But what if this wall was a different type of wall? So maybe I made it a 3.5 brick exterior, okay? And I maybe changed the template of this. So I'll go to properties, template, I'll go to the wood default templates that we provide. I'm just gonna go with the flat header, set as active, close, okay. Okay, so this wall got regenerated, but the backer stud is technically supposed to be matching whatever is it needs to be from this wall. But since I didn't actually apply the join later, I have to actually regenerate this wall as well in order for me to get the updated join condition, right? So I'm just going to quickly regenerate that, and you'll see the backer stud is a different color, but it still belongs to panel 22, which is this panel over here is panel 22. I'm sorry, I'm pointing it in my properties. That's how I can tell. So it's within panel 22 here, and that one is also within panel 22. It's counted as an S join stud. Okay, so that's how you place the joins manually. But what if I want to automatically place it? This is too time consuming to constantly like manually place joins after joins over and over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up rules for specific conditions. Okay, so I want to have a typical condition. So if it ever sees two walls in a corner, doesn't matter which walls they are, whether they're this one or this combination, doesn't matter. I wanted to place a specific join condition for any wall connecting in a corner. Okay. Oh, sorry, now place join. We're gonna go to, I'm gonna close out of here. We are going to go to joins. After selecting the walls, we're gonna create an auto join rule. Okay. Actually, let me see really quick. I don't know if I deleted it. Just double checking one thing. You can always go and create your own auto join rule folder. So here I already have, yeah, okay, I already have a few. So I'm gonna create a new one. I'm just gonna create a new one there. And I'm just going to call it SSS auto join. Okay. And the only way you can create a new one is by duplicating. That's why I always say, don't modify the defaults. I kind of made the mistake of modifying the defaults. And I'll just delete these, yes. Delete, yes, delete, yes. Oops, delete, yes, delete, yes. You can create the rules, auto join rules in here as well, but you kind of have to understand how each signature works. And if you pick the wrong one, your join will show up in the wrong location. Actually, let me trash that and then come here. Sorry. Yeah, okay. So that, and I'm going to duplicate it as my own. There you go. All right. So I'm going to be saving all my auto join rules in here. So as you can see, this one's going to create a list. So if I add a join rule, I can just do something like this, and I can have them in a specific order. But note that I can't really move it up or down. I can't move the rule up or down if there's multiple rules. So basically, we need to make sure that we set up the rules correctly in the correct order in the first place. So what that means is if you have more specific rules, that means that I have two shear walls like SW1, SW2. Whenever they're connected, they need to be a specific kind of join. And maybe it's a custom join you created, or maybe it's something that we've given you by default, but it has to have that kind of join condition. But if it's any other wall, then it can be this typical join condition. But just for that specific condition, I need it to be this specific join. So in that case, I will have to create that specific condition first and then create my generic conditions. Because what happens is it will run through the rules, and once it meets the rule, it will stop running. So that means if it finds, if you run the general rule first, it thinks the two SW walls are in a corner, and it's any two walls, or as the rule mentioned, it's any two walls. Yes, these are any two walls, and it'll apply the generic one and will stop running the rule. If your specific one is like right after or even all the way at the end, it will not bother running it because it found a rule that it met and it stopped. It found a condition that it met and it stopped. Okay, so I'm going to delete this rule from here, and I'm going to show you how to add it on our own. So we'll go ahead and hit OK here. There you go. So what we're going to do is we're going to select these two walls, and we have to add a condition for every, or we have to add a rule for every condition. So what that means is I have a corner condition here, and then I'm going to go ahead and say create auto join rule. I'll choose the join condition I wanted to place. In this case, I want it to be different size backer. And I want it to place inside the SSS panel auto join rule, select. And now it brings up this little dialog. It tells you that it's gonna be placed, it's using this specific type, which is for wood. And it's telling you for the first main wall, it's if the wall type is wood exterior brick 5.5, and then if for host 2, if the wall type is wood exterior 5.5, then it will apply this join. But I don't want that. I want it to be a general rule for any wall connecting to any wall. So here, I'm going to go to home. I'll click on host 1, click on home, and then scroll up and hit the blank button. Whereas if you're trying to create something specific, you can say for host 1, I want all of my LGS walls to be, considered as host 1, and I want all my other LGS walls to be considered as host 2. So if you have wood and steel in the same file, you can do it that way. Or if you want it a specific way for one unit versus another, if you have different wall types for unit A versus unit B, you can always do it that way as well. Okay, so I'm going to select the blank so I can have any wall. Again, for host 2, I'll select the house and scroll up, and you'll see it's blank. I'll select that, and that's any wall. And over here, it'll use this specific join condition whenever it finds something that meets this rule. Okay, and check mark. When you hit check mark, you'll notice nothing gets created, and that's just because we created a rule. We didn't apply the join. We just told it to create a rule using that condition. So the next condition we have is a T condition, so where you have this wall being continuous and this wall butting up against it. So what we're going to do is we're going to select that. We're going to go to MWF, joins, and then create auto join rule. And we're going to tell it to be, you can do simple flush A, you can do typical A, typical B, that's a custom join I created, and typical B at the outer face of main. I'll just use let's use different thickness actually. Let's use different thickness just so that we can see the condition happen here. And then we have SSS panels auto join. Again, same thing, it's all repetitive. You have to select none for main wall, none for main wall, and hit the checkbox. Okay, same thing happens for these conditions. So this would be a T with an angle wall. So it won't apply the same condition that we have for the typical T's, but if you wanted like a corner and an angle wall is different than a corner in a T wall. So you have to create a rule for each of those conditions as well. So basically go through it and see which conditions you have. So I'm just going to create one for this, and we only have one join type for this, so we'll go ahead and select that. Add it to panels auto join. We want it to be any wall, and that's the rule created for that. Let's create a quick rule for the um, angled T condition. Again, same thing, any wall. Oh, sorry, I did place instead of auto join rule. This one is going to be any wall connecting to any wall. Okay, this is the last one I'll do. Technically, I need a condition for this as well, because we created a corner condition for an obtuse angle, which is larger than 90, but we need to create a condition for the acute angle because the join condition in that will be different, and that's angle below 90. So I've created this condition, but not that. So when I run my auto join rule now, you'll notice that it'll give me an error saying that, hey, these walls weren't joined because, well, you didn't have a rule for it. So what we're going to do now is, after we create all of our rules, we can select all of our panels and then go ahead and auto join, hit the auto join button after hitting joins. Click on auto join. Click on the rule you wanted to follow. And then it will place all your joins. I prefer to do joins before placing panels, because otherwise it's going to take time to regenerate every single panel after placing the join, and it just takes much longer that way. I prefer to do it without, and you can always do it with as well. There's no rule against it. It's just that it just takes a little longer because it's going to be regenerating each and every single panel as it goes through. Okay. And over here, you'll notice you got a wall joins error, and it's basically saying no rule found. And that was for the acute walls condition that I showed you right now. We forgot to create a rule, so it gave us the error. So I can just now go back to those areas and create those rules, create the auto join rule for that as well. Again, single condition, and add to that. Just quickly set none. So host 2, select it to be none, and select and hit OK. And now I can select those 2 walls or 3 walls and go ahead and hit join. Oh, sorry, auto join. Okay, and there you go. We have that done. So now all the auto joins are placed. I can very easily go ahead and quick create to see all the conditions that I have set up for this. So I'm gonna do that. I'll do that and that one. Okay, let's just do these. Technically, it's fine. Let's just do the interior walls for now. There. And we'll go ahead and just hit quick create here. All right, so once we finish creating this, we can actually see how the joins are being, or how the studs are being placed and how the members are being placed when it's connected to different sizes and different areas. Okay, give it a second. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask it in the questions box that is available on your GoToWebinar dashboard. And 2 more panels to create, and we should be good to go. And there you go. You have that condition there. You have this where we have placed it to not matter here, so it'll go through. And there you go. That's basically how this is going to work for auto joins. All right, next options we have, or next thing we're going to talk about, is how to create a custom join. This is a very common question, and the short answer is it is very complicated to create a custom join. I don't mean to scare you, but it is. It's a lot of trial and error. You'll have to kind of figure out how the tool works a little bit, and at the same time have an idea of why it's doing what it's doing, and at the same time figure out what your join actually needs to do. Okay, So we're going to try to mimic something like, sorry, give me a second. I'm just going to see if I find there. We're going to try to mimic something like this, which is kind of like a ladder join being placed at a T condition. But instead of just selecting like random studs that it has to place at, I want it to be properly centered, and my join studs are going to be my guide for that. So let's go ahead and do something like that. Okay. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to place a join that's pretty close to what we wanted to do. Okay, so we're going to select the two walls, and I'll do the manual join situation. So I'll go ahead, joins, place join, and then I'll go through the list of joins we have and choose the one that I know will kind of meet my condition. I want something like typical B there. I want something like this. I want typical B at but with the outer face of main here. So I can move these studs over and just have that be my solution, right? So these studs are being added because of the join. That is, however, the end stud of that panel there. So these two are being added because of the join condition. Okay, so let's use this one as our base. Okay, so here you can see that it's J164. So what we can do is go to Marker Manager. Okay, and go to joins. We're talking about two wall intersection. So J164 is what we want to use. So we're going to just duplicate this one, okay? And then we're going to rename it. Oops, actually it won't let me rename it here. It'll let me rename it when I edit the join. So we can rename it here, or we can rename it later. So now you can see that created a join copy called J206. So we'll go ahead and hit OK here. All right. And this join here, all I want to do is just replace it with J206. Okay. Just be mindful when you change these joins using the properties instead of using place join. You might place like a corner join at a T condition and it'll break your panels. So just be mindful of that. But for me, since I actually double checked in the marker manager before placing it, it should be okay. If you are concerned about that, you can just delete it and do place joins again and use your new duplicated join. So now this is J206. We can go ahead and look at the click on properties after clicking on the marker, and then we'll hit the pencil. Like any of our other markers, if you hit the pencil, you are editing the type properties of the marker. And what that means is you are basically modifying this join for every single wall condition you've applied it to. Okay, so you're modifying the join itself, and if any other panel that it's applied to that you regenerate, it's going to do the new settings for that wall or that join area. Okay, so here we have a nice little panel join definition dialog box. If I wanted to rename the join, this is where I would do it. So I can just call it custom ladder here instead of typical B. Okay, so I'll say wood T custom ladder, and that'll be my new name for this join. Okay, the next thing we are going to go through is the panel items. There's something called panel items, and then there's called reference points. And we'll discuss the reference points first and then get into panel items. Panel items is basically if you want to make any modifications to how the end stud reacts to the join or where it's placed and stuff like that, we can specify those options here. Okay, so let's first talk about reference points. Okay, so here we have one reference point already specified, which is host 1 main layer 0, host 2 main layer 0. So what that means is it's structural layer connecting to structural layer and near connecting to near. So to explain near and far, I'm just going to treat this like a corner. Actually, give me 1 second. Let me just, I have a document that explains this very well. Okay. So basically, if I was to consider the near and far, near means the inner corner or the closest inner corner of the join, and then far basically is the farthest away corner. Okay, let's see here. Okay, that's not it. Sorry. Okay. Okay, there you go. So this one's a little old. This article's a little old, but it kind of explains a little bit about the join condition here. Okay, so you see there's one main wall and there's the secondary wall, right? So point 1 is your near corner and point 2 is your far corner. Okay, so basically, if I consider that for a corner, it makes sense. But when you're in a T condition, what is near and what's far? So in this case, near would be basically the center point here, and far would be basically the edge here. Okay, so that's basically what this means. If you set it to near near, that's the near side, and if you set it to far far, that's the far side. So that's what it's going to align to. Okay. And you can assign your hosts accordingly, and so on and so forth. So let's start with our host 1 main. Okay, so I'm not going to really change anything here. I'm just showing you what it's doing. So for the host 1, which is your main wall, it's telling you to use your main wall's structural layer, and it's saying align to the inner corner or near corner. And then over here, vertical align is basically what part of the stud do you want it to align to. And these reference points, basically, once you create them, you can apply them to your members. So it's not necessarily using host 1 as a reference. It's just there for you to be able to apply it to your items if you wanted to align them to something. Okay, so we don't delete whatever's given by default. We always just add. Okay, so over here, for reference 2, what we're going to do though is change it a little bit. And that's because I've tested out this join in a way, and I kind of want to modify this so that our ladder join has, from the center point of this stud to the interface of this is 6 inches. Okay, so I want the same thing from here. Center line to interface is 6 inches. So I need to assign reference points to these 2 columns that are being created, which is this one and this one. These 2 columns that are being created, and hope it works and make sure it works for multiple different situations or multiple different types of walls and palettes or panels, sorry. Okay, so for host 2, what I'm gonna do for the change is I'm gonna make it centered. For host 2, I'll center it to the middle. And over here, you'll see for host 1, it says 17 layer near. So what that means is whatever is your farthest finish from the core is where your stud will align. Okay, so what that means is the reason I say farthest is because it says near, but it is also layer 8 near. So what that means is from the center, which is 0, you'll have no matter how many layers you have. So whichever one is the furthest away on the interior side is where I want the stud to be placed. Okay, so that is basically how it's treating it. So layer near, so that means going to the interior side, I want it to be furthest away from the stud. That means wherever the finish ends. So if you have 4 layers, it will place that end stud after 4 layers. Okay, that's just something to keep in mind there. And then what else the other thing I'm gonna do is over here where it says shift point by offset, I'm going to leave it at host 1 main. Okay, so I'm making a change. If I make a change, it's going to be happening in the host 1 main wall. And then the orientation is host direction. So that means if E1 is here and E2 is here, so that means it's going in that direction. So the host direction is the continuous direction. But if it is a host direction opposite, then it'll go the other way, basically. Okay. And then you'll play around with interior and exterior. If you were adding a stud over here, you'll go interior or exterior accordingly, and stuff like that. So I'm leaving the orientation to host direction. Only thing I'm going to change here is make this 6 inches because I want it to be from the center point here to this inner edge to be 6 inches, and from there to be 6 inches. So I'm going to put in 6 inches here. And then we can go ahead and review reference point number 3. So for reference point number 3, I don't think I'm going to make any changes. I'm going to leave it as is. It's just provided to us by default, so I'm going to leave it as happy as it is right now. Now, if I wanted to add a new reference point, I can just click on this little arrow beside the plus sign, and then click on add reference point, and there you go. You'll see there it lets you add number 4. Okay, so for number 4, host main layer 0, host 2 layer 0. So they're both again on the structural layer. But what I want to do is I want to place this as far, and I want this to be centered. Okay, because I want the farthest edge to be considered, and I want it to be centered to the host 2. The farthest edge centered to the host 2. And then for this one, it's basically on the member, which line do you want it to follow? So I want it to be the center here, okay? And for host 4 also, I want it to be, reference point 4, I want it to be 6 inches because of my condition that I'm trying to achieve. But in this case, we kind of are matching whatever is set for level for reference point 2, except for the layers. But I want this to go in the opposite direction because this one, if it moves in the direction of the panel, then I want this one to go in the other direction, right? Because I don't want them to both move together in the same direction. I want them to go back, or one to go back and one to go left, one to go right. There you go. So we have host direction opposite is what I'm going to set it. So it goes in the opposite direction of whatever level reference point 2 is aligned to. Okay, and I want to go in the opposite direction by 6 inches as my offset. Okay, now that my reference points are set, I can go ahead and set up my items that are being created. If I wanted to add a new column, maybe to add it over here, I can always go add panel item. Oh, sorry, you have to select the host first. So maybe I want to add it for host 1. I can say add panel item, and it will add like a 3-column S join here, and you can, do whatever you need to do with it. I'm not going to add a column because I just want this join condition to be for ladders. But if you wanted to add it, that's how it is. Okay, once you add a member, you have to specify a few things. First, what is the category? Are you adding a beam or a column? I'm obviously adding a column because it's a vertical member. Okay, what's the assignment of it? Do you want it to be considered a end vertical stud, join stud, vertical stud, or hold down? I want it to be considered a join stud, and the reason for it being considered as a join stud is because I want to make sure that whatever studs are being placed by a join, I know that it's because of a join. So when I delete the join, I know I'm going to lose that member there. Okay, so that's just something I keep in mind for myself. So I'm going to keep that as assignment as join stud. So basically what that means is when you click on that stud, it will basically say S join. Okay. And then over here, you're basically asking it to create a new one because we are adding a new member to the panel. Okay. And then you're going to also say allow it to stretch the top and bottom track, so it'll actually align to the bottom side of the track properly and the top side of the track, top side of the bottom track. Okay. So that's basically what you're saying here. And then you can choose if you want to specify a specific type. Keep in mind, if you specify a specific type over here, like maybe you need to be a 68 gauge, 600S, 200S, 68 gauge, or you want it to be or you want it to be a 4x4, and so on and so forth. If you do that, keep in mind that this joint is limited to your 4-inch walls then, right? If you have a 4x4 being specified as your type. Because even in a 6-inch wall, it will still be a 4x4 because that's the type you've told it to be. Whereas if you tell it to follow a bi-panel parameter, which in this case is your typical stud vertical column, then it will basically be placing whatever type you've specified for that type stud vertical column. So what that means is if I wanted it to be, if I wanted it to be like a 4x4 and all my typical studs are 4x4, it will follow that. If my studs are 2x6, it will follow that, right? So it's flexible to be used in multiple panels. So you can use it in a 2x6 wall, you can use it in a 2x4 wall, and so on and so forth. Okay, it makes it more flexible with this versus type is it's only for that wall type, or it's only for a 4-inch wall. It cannot be used for 6 inches kind of thing. Okay, so that's the first thing there. Okay, there. And then we can apply panel operation. So you can add these by clicking on panel item operation. So you select the panel item, and then you go here and add operation. So this one is rotation, so cross-section rotation. So in this case, what I wanted to do is I wanted to, for the rotation, I wanted to follow the host 2 and host direction exterior. So it's basically being aligned to the outside edge over here. Okay, that's one. The second one is projection. Okay, so for the projection, is where we can set up how we want that column to move. If I wanted to move it inwards or outwards, or which reference point I basically wanted to follow, right? So I'm going to choose reference point as my destination here. And then over here, I can choose which one I wanted to follow. I'm going to choose 4 for this one and hope it is the correct one, because we want this column to go this way and that one to go the other way. And we can go see what it does to the column, right? And which one it moved. The other thing I'm also going to do is my depth is the top. I wanted to use the top and east corner of that column to adjust according to our reference 4 point marker. Okay, so I'm going to fix column 1, and let's go ahead and hit the checkbox and see what it does. So we'll go ahead and hit checkbox. Okay, over here I'm going to make this. Oh, that's a 3.5. Let's make this 5.5 brick. There you go. That's basically being applied there. Now I can go ahead and quick create these walls. Okay, so you'll see there's double studs here, and it's kind of only because of you know, the location of the panel and things like that. So you can always click on the stud and figure out what it is. That's why I leave it as an S join versus an SV. So over here, this says this is a typical stud inside the panel, which is like, you know, it's following your typical spacing. So if you wanted, you could always go into properties and modify the spacing while you're creating joins at least to be a little larger. So I can make it like 4 feet or 5 feet or whatever. And keep in mind it's a multi-layer wall, so it is going to reset to, you know, what I had set it to before. So instead of keeping on redoing that change, I can go to wall properties. I can uncheck this, leave it as instance, and make that mini modification. Oh, there, it's done already. Perfect. Okay. So that way it will stay even though I made that change through single layer. Okay, so now I know there's no confusion because that one is an S join stud. This one is an S join stud. Yeah. But one of them is moving farther away than the other. So let's go quickly do a DI. Okay, and do a dimension to the inner face here, and that is doing the 6 inches, that doing what I wanted, which is the 6 inches from the center to the interior side of that column. Whereas the other side, which I'm presuming is column 2, is not doing that. It's not 6 inches yet. It is still 415/32. So let's go figure out, let's go change column 2's reference points and see if that would work. So again, we'll go inside the properties, go to, click on the marker, go to properties, and click on the pencil. And let's talk about column 2. Same settings as column 1. It's a join stud. It's following whatever the stud vertical is. And then over here, for rotation, it's going into host direction interior. The other one was host direction exterior. Okay, that makes sense. And then for the projection, this basically is aligning to the interior face of the wall, versus the other one is aligning to the exterior face of that host 2 wall. Okay. And then for projection, this one is following host 2, okay, or reference point 2. Oops, did I miss something in reference point 2? Yeah, okay. So it's following reference point 2, but it's not being aligned correctly. So what that means is if I set this to top, and maybe if I set this to east, okay, and I leave the directions and everything the same, I can double check and see what is happening there. Because remember for reference point 2, we set the 6 inches, and for reference point 4, we set the 6 inches as well, okay? So that means the projection for this should be 2 because the other one was 4 and it worked correctly. It moved away from the center wall. So in this case, it will also do the same thing. So now I can go ahead and select the host 2 and take a look at what is happening for the host 2 wall, which is the one that's intersecting in. And if I click on the end alignment reference point, it's pointing to reference point 2. And if we remember correctly, click on reference point 2. Over here, it's treating host 1 as host 1's farthest layer, right? Farthest interior layer as a reference. So that's where it's trying to place that stud. So that's why we have chosen this as our reference for that. Okay, so that one works fine. So we'll go ahead and hit the checkbox and hit OK, and hit the checkbox again. And let it work its magic. Okay, so basically, if I go ahead and do a dimension now, let's do it. Oh, sorry, DI. Okay, center of the stud to the interior side of the column. And did I mess something up again? Oh, I don't think I'm selecting the center of the stud. Oh, it is the center. Okay. Well, over here you can kind of see that it is still a little off. Or maybe I have a feeling I just selected the wrong reference. No, it's the correct reference. Okay. So it is still a little off. We can always go ahead and play around with it and fix it till it's perfect. But you can kind of see it's almost 6 inches, I would say. And it's probably just a rounding issue. So if I was to set my units to be just inches and 0 decimal places, they're both 6 inches basically. Okay. So it's pretty close to 6 inches because it's 31/32. So it's just a dimension issue. But other than that, it looks pretty good. It seems like it is going, it is placing exactly how we want it to. But now I have to test this joint in multiple different conditions. So I can just select the walls here because we already have a specific T-joint condition placed. So we can just auto join them and then change the join later. Okay, so all the joins are placed. I'll select them and I forgot this one was J206. So we can select these, okay, and then change this to J206. And then we can always go ahead and quick create them. That one has a special like spacing parameter added, but if I just go ahead and quick create these without that spacing parameter modified, see how it places my joins. And there. Okay, so it seems to place most of them correctly. And if you ever see like a member, like an SV member in the middle, and you don't want that there, obviously, because we're going to place a ladder join here, you can select the member that's being placed there because of your template. Technically, if you could increase your wall length or decrease your wall length to get rid of it, it's better that way. In this case, if I decrease it a little bit, I might be able to get it out of the situation that it's being placed in. Like that, see? So if I make the wall bigger or smaller, I could get rid of it. But if you did want to get rid of it as a, you want to keep the wall the way it is and you want to get rid of that extra stud that's been created, you select it. You have to go to edits and then delete generated. If you just hit the delete key on your keyboard and regenerate the panel, it'll come back. You have to hit delete generated so that MWF knows as a post-processing tool, it will delete the generated member every time after it regenerates the panel. Okay. If ever the panel gets larger or smaller and you want to bring that member back, just go inside the properties, go to edits, and then just select that little white rectangle and hit the delete key on your keyboard. It will bring that member back. Okay. I'm not doing that. I'm just leaving it as is. And now we can show you how to place your ladder join. So let's go into a 3D view here. What I'm going to do, however, is for this wall, I'm going to delete it. No, not this, delete. I'm going to delete the template in here. And I'm just going to switch this wall to be a 5.5. And then I'm going to go ahead and quick create it. Okay, that's fine. And then if I regenerate, if I regenerate this one, we can kind of see how that looks there. Okay. So now that we're here, okay, and I go to 3D here. Okay, there. So now that we're here, we can just ignore that, it's fine. We can hide our walls and try to place a ladder join, but I think I might have to hide that stud again. No, that's an S-join stud, so which is the one I have to get away? This one. Okay, so I'm again gonna go through that delete generated just so that, there you go, perfect. Alrighty, let's go back to our 3D view, go VV, go W, just turn off our walls for a second. And we're gonna basically place our ladder join. So to place a ladder join, you have to select two studs that you want to place a join to. So select the two studs here. You can go ahead and hit join, and then you can say place ladder. Okay, and then I have two types created here. I'll just delete them. But basically, you can choose your name for your join. I'm going to be placing let's place 2x4 yeah, 2x4 members. Or maybe 2x6. Let's do 2x6. Okay, let's do 2x6 members, and we'll choose that 2x6 member here. You can select the intersecting wall and select how you want your stud to be aligned to the structural layer or to the finish layer. So it's being aligned to the finish layer. You can choose the orientation of it if you want it to be 90 degrees like an actual ladder, or if you want it to be 0, which is flush like a furring style. And then you can choose how many members you want. I'm going to do 6 members. I'm going to do ratio of 6 members. So you'll see the numbers look massive, but it's just doing a math from the height of the wall. It's using the height of the wall, and it's doing the math of how much percentage each has to, at what percentage each member has to be placed. And that's basically it. Once you do that, you can hit add. You can also specify spacing if you prefer that method. You have that option as well. You specify first offset, last offset, and the actual spacing, and it will work. So now that we have this option available, we'll click it and hit OK. And I have to select the intersecting wall since I deleted it from here. Oh no, did it exit? Yeah, I did that by mistake, sorry. Not deleted, I hid the walls from here. So let's go bring that back and I'll just hide this wall, EH, there you go. Because I need to select that intersecting wall. So again, select studs, joins, place ladder. You can always select the one that you want to use. I guess it's supposed to be 2x6 and 2x6. I think I hit cancel instead of okay. All right, great. And then we're gonna go ahead and add that. No, we're gonna make it 6. Okay, and then we're gonna hit add. That's fine. And we're gonna select the 2x6 and hit OK. We'll select the intersecting wall, which is this one here, and it will place the ladder for you. Okay, and that's basically how you place ladder joins. It's nothing more complicated than that. Okay, the ladder join will remain even if you regenerate because it is referencing those two studs there and the intersecting wall. All right, next condition, or next thing we're gonna learn, I believe, is how to disallow joins. So I'm just gonna quickly go through that. So the reason you might wanna disallow joins, let me just select all these walls here. Filter, check none, walls, okay, copy it over here. Okay, so the reason you might want to use disallow joins is maybe a specific condition is a little too much and our typical joins cannot accommodate what you are looking for. So maybe you have something that is super close here. You want this to be a corner, but you don't want it to be treated as a three-way condition. You can, and you want to just end it here. But you see how like it just joins and automatically makes its peace with it. You can disallow joins for multiple walls or just like specific walls. So I'm just going to do those 3 here. And then I'm just going to say joins. And then I can just go ahead and say disallow join and say by selection in current view, all walls in project or by base level. I'm just going to do by selection. And you'll notice it disallows join here as well. Okay, disallow the join here for this guy, and you can see that by looking at this, if you click on that button, it'll allow the join. Same thing here. So now you can go ahead and adjust your Revit walls how you need to. So maybe I wanted to end that one there. I wanted this one to end here. Sorry, this one to end here and unjoin. Okay. Something like that. I don't know. Maybe you have a specific join condition like this and our typical joins are not meeting your request. So you can kind of do something like that and move them as you need. Okay. This is also very helpful when you have walls in series. So if I was to separate my walls, yeah, that's fine. Let's just use that. Okay. If I was to separate my walls using Revit split commands, okay, if I do something like that, I'm just splitting the walls into a bunch. And over here, you'll notice there's no allow join symbol. That means these are still already allowed to be joined. So if I move this wall here, it made that whole thing one wall, even though it was supposed to be split, right? These are 2 separate walls right now. If I extend it in, if I extend it, okay, you'll see that it made it one wall. Okay, so now I want to avoid that because I've already done the work of splitting the walls in Revit. I can just go select all of them, disallow joins by selection, hit OK, and now all of them are disallowed. You see that? And that's pretty much it for today's webinar. Feel free to ask any questions if you have any.
All right, thank you, Aparna, for the presentation. And as you mentioned, we'll open the floor for your questions. And once again, you can either send them via the questions tab of your dashboard, or if you'd like to ask your question live, you can raise your hand and we shall unmute you. As we wait for your questions to come in, as a reminder, you can view the recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel or our social media accounts, such as LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, by 5:30 or 5 p.m. EST tomorrow. Also, in case you find yourself with any questions while you're reviewing the recording, you can always email us at info@structsoftSolutions.com, and we'll be happy to address your questions via email as well. So we'll just give it a few more seconds to see if any questions happen to pop in. Otherwise, we will wrap up this presentation. Alrighty, that looks like a wrap for today. So once again, guys, if you had any follow-up questions at a later date about this presentation, feel free to reach out to us at info@structsoftSolutions.com, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. And having said that, I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and we wish you have a great day ahead.